Lord Inglewood, your committee's been investigating Superfast Broadband since February. What sort of issues have you been looking at?
We began by looking at what the government's plans for broadband in this country are. That is 90% of the population with superfast broadband by 2015, and the rest of the population within 2 megabits by that time for absolutely rock bottom bugging basement service. And then we looked further at some of the conclusions that we drew from what the government is doing.
So who gave evidence to the committee?
We had a wide range of witnesses. They ranged from the major infrastructure providers, BT and Virgin, through internet service providers, a number of people with experience from abroad, consumer groups, and then of course we had BD UK, Ofcom, and the government itself.
So what did the committee find?
Well, the conclusion we reached was that in very general terms, much of what was going on was obviously absolutely right, and it was right for the government to give priority to broadband rollout because of its importance for society in the future. We were concerned about the so-called digital divide, which relates to people who, either because they don't have the skills or they aren't in physically the right place, be able to get proper access to broadband. And in general terms, the conclusion we reached was that there were a number of respects we thought that the government's overall vision wasn't quite fit for purpose.
So what recommendations did the committee make?
The key recommendation, which underlies all our thinking, is that, first of all, there should be open access to everybody for the network, to the network. And secondly, and this is a slightly techie point, that it's important that you put public emphasis and public resources into enlarging the so-called middle mile, thereby reducing the extent of what is known as the last mile, which is a local access network. And in that way, we believe you will be able to provide a much better service for the nation as a whole on a more economical and a more flexible basis.
So what happens next?
Well, we've just published our report, and that in turn will result in a response from the government in a couple of months. And that in turn will be debated on the floor of the House of Lords. But I also very much hope, and the committee equally hopes, that we will stimulate a debate in the country at large about the subject, because it's a matter of very considerable concern. We know that to a lot of people, and we do think that our vision of where the country should go is in fact an improvement on the government's, and we'd like to think we could build up a head of steam and a political momentum behind that.